Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Brandon Watts, and today we'll be going over this exterior image. And I'll be taking you from this to this nicely lit image where the grass is greened up, the house is brightened up a little bit, and the sky is brought down just for a little dramatic necessity. And so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first issue that I have with this image is this sun flare that is streaking across this house right here. I don't like that sun flare there, so what I had to do was, this was a handheld shot, and you can see that these two shots are not aligned, but I used this, or my left hand, to block out the sun, and now you can see that that sun flare is not there compared to this original image right there. That's the difference. So now we have to get those aligned. What we can do is select both of those, go to Edit, drop down to Auto Align, make sure Auto is selected under Projection, and under Lens Correction, our Vignette Removal and Geometric Distortion are both turned off. Hit OK, let that work, and now you can see that we're just about perfectly aligned. So now what we can do is we'll just brush out, add a mask, make sure we'll hit B for brush, have a black foreground color, and we'll just brush out that sun flare. Easy, easy. All right. Now we can merge those together by selecting both and doing a Command E. We'll zoom out a little bit by hitting Option Spacebar and clicking onto the image. Hit C for crop, and we'll just crop that out, those edges, so we don't see those unaligned edges. There we are. Now we have a clean base to work from. Now we can do a Command Shift A to bring up camera raw. Hit Auto just to see what it gives us. It's not too bad. It is a little dim, so let's bring that back up a little bit. Highlights are good. Shadows are good. Now, this little button here underneath this band-aid is our mask button. What I like to do first is select the subject, and that is selected quite well. Okay, I don't see any real issues with that selection. And so what we'll do is bring up the exposure just a tad. About right there is good. 0.40 on the exposure is good. I don't really touch much else. Let's see, highlights. You can bring up the highlights a little bit. Shadows, just barely, +6, and that's about it. Now we'll do a Create New Mask. Select the sky. There we are. And what I like to do is do a Subtract Subject, and that should clean up some of the edges if this sky selection selected part of the house. So that gets rid of that, and now we can, for the sky, just kind of bring down the exposure a little bit, just to kind of add some cinematic flair to it, a little bit of some contrast to make those clouds pop, and not really too much in saturation, because we will add some saturation once we are done. Now that looks good. And the last thing I will do is I will do a linear gradient. I will select the very bottom of the image, so that way everything is selected. I'll do a Subtract Subject, Subtract Sky. Now I can work on the bottom part of this image here and just lower the exposure, because what we're trying to do is create a separation between the house and the rest of the image. The house should be brighter since that's a subject. We want to draw the attention to the property, and so that's why we brighten up the house while darkening the rest of the image. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. And you know, that's not too bad. So let's go and go with that. Hit OK. Now if I do a Command Z, you can see the difference. Command Shift Z to redo. That's the difference. Okay. Now let's go and replace this grass. So first thing I want to do is make sure I select the grass. I like to do a W on the keyboard for a quick selection. Normally I have this subtraction added because even though the subtraction is being used, it's first going to create my selection and then it starts to go to a subtraction right after that. And that, I just like to be efficient that way. Is I know that usually this selection is off, and so after I create my first selection, you see that right there, it selected too much. Now I could just go back without having to already go and switch back and forth between the add selection, subtract selection. That takes too much time, so I just I like to be efficient. Now I can hold down Shift to add back. You could use a pen tool if you wanted to, but this is just for the sake of this tutorial. There we are. It's not too bad. I'll leave this grass. That grass is not bad. Just to show the difference. And I guess we could select some of this over here as well. Holding down Shift and just kind of clicking. Let go of Shift to deselect and click what I don't want to add grass to. There we are. I will do a feather. And you can do a feather by going down to Select, Modify, Feather. I'll do a feather of 2 pixels. Go down to, oh shoot, you know what? Gotta get rid of this bush. There we are. There we are. Okay. Now, go to Channels. I'll create a mask for that, so that way that stays as a selection. And what we can do is, in this Chaotech plugin, which, let me go to Chaotech, their website, you can see for $4 a month, you'll get this greenery manipulation tool, and it's chaotechnology.com. I'll put the link in the description. There's no affiliate or whatever, so I'm just recommending it to you all. This is what I use to replace my grass. So inside of manipulation, in the Chaotech plugin, manipulation, I'll go to greenery. Then it gives us more options. I'll go into grass textures, and I already kind of know what grass I want. It's going to be grass 3. And if I click that, now we have this grass image that's applied over as a layer. And there's other ones in here as well if you wanted to click and see the other grass that is provided. But none of that grass matches what I'm looking for. So this texture here, grass 3, that's what we'll use. And you can see how the grass gets smaller and smaller as it goes further back. So I'm just kind of adjusting for that into the image, and then as it gets closer, you see these leaves get bigger, of course, through the perspective of that image. Now what we can do is go back to Channels. Since we already created our mask, we'll hold down Command, click on this mask here, go back to Layers, create a new mask. As long as your grass layer is selected, create a new mask. Boom. There we go. That's the first step. Now we'll do a Command G to group that, and we'll do a Command E to merge that. And now you can see that only that mask is revealed and then merged down into a single layer, so that way there's no mask anymore. It's just that layer that's selected instead of the entirety of that green grass texture. Now we'll do split mask with that grass still selected, that grass layer still selected. We'll do split mask red 2. Let it do its thing. We'll go back to Channels, do Option, or Command, and click back on that mask to recreate the selection. And then we could do a Option Shift, delete on that mask, and that will fill in the mask with white. And now you can see the difference between how this grass is all burnt from the sun during the summer to greener, but it still looks a little fake. It's kind of cold. It just needs to be fixed. So let's go ahead and in the highlights of this grass, we'll go ahead and do hue saturation, and inside the hue we'll just kind of drop that down to around -14. Looks good. You can see the difference inside the highlights of the grass. This is with it that we applied. That was after. See how cold that is? If I reapply it, it's a little more orange as the sun hits that side of the grass. Now we can fix the shadows, because that's also cold. Hue saturation, click into there. And we'll also just kind of bring that down a little bit. Now you can see how this grass is more natural for the sun to be hitting onto it. Before it was colder, now it's a little bit warmer. We can go ahead and go into our levels. We can even brighten up some of those shadows in the grass. See how that affects it. Do the same for the highlights. Kind of bring up, see how if we increase it all the way, how it affects that. We don't want to increase it all the way, we just kind of want to bring it up to the beginning of this slope right there, somewhere around there, and there you go. That's the difference. So I mean, now that we've adjusted the grass, you can see how more natural that kind of looks. We can do a Command Option Shift E to merge all visible. We'll go back into our Command Shift A camera raw, hit it with auto again, because you know it's going to brighten up the image a little bit. That's good. That's good. Throw in some more saturation. Not too much. Not too much. You know what? Let's bring down the sky some more as well. Select sky, and that'll be good right there. All right. So I mean, going from this image here to where we started with, I mean, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I probably could have centered this image a little bit more, but I think it looks good. It shows off a little bit of the lake. So, all right. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked all the information I've been putting out so far, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. You all take care, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.